Hello, and welcome back to the MCAT grind. This is Psych, Chapter 12, Social Stratification. This is the last chapter of the Psych pages. So, starting off, we have social stratification, which means the persistent of the categorization of the social classes. What is a social class? Well, socioeconomic class is defined to be a category which similar people with social status or economic status are placed in. It could be in achieved status, as discussed earlier in earlier chapters. Achieved is when one strives towards it, like meritocracy, through their own ability and efforts, where ascribed status is where one has been placed in it since they were born. In caste system or estate systems, those systems enforce the ascribed status onto individuals a lot more, whereas achieved statuses are placed in class systems. Now, class could be categorized into upper, middle, and lower. The upper classes usually have all the socioeconomic power that control the middle and the lower class. Lower class has the most deprivation of resources, and hence they're at risk of more diseases and negative health outcomes. Power is, as described, the control over another group, where one group may have more influence over another, where it is politically, socially, or enforce certain rules and order. According to Karl Marx and the Marxist theory, this power differential between upper and lower class constitutes a class consciousness in the lower class, which could, as proletariats, overthrow the upper class, the bourgeoisie. This overthrowing will then constitute a middle class that shares some similarities from both, and then the power differential, either between the upper and middle or the middle and lower, will generate another uprising, and it will constitute another middle ground until the power balance is settled. Now, there are several factors that prevent this such uprising. That includes the lack of class consciousness, where the individual in the lower class may not know that, the conditions are absolutely horrid, or there are many other factors like health and just needing to stay and the daily necessities to get through, distracting the collective mindset. Prestige, as described earlier chapters, is a respect for the group. How much prestige one get may depend on the profession, such as being a practitioner, medical practitioner. One would be placed at higher prestige due to the amount of giving they are and helping with healing. For us, let's say a scammer, the prestige will be the lowest of the low due to no respect for someone who thrives on the downfall of another. Social mobility is the ability to shift the socioeconomic status either up or down. You could have upward mobility through either meritocracy and gaining of certain aspects of education, or you could have horizontal mobility, just moving from profession to profession of similar socioeconomic level, or downwards. If one was laid off, they have to go for a lesser socioeconomical beneficial level. Social exclusion is alienation from society, or perceived so by the individual. They may feel that they are out of the social networks, or they lack the support, and social exclusion is one of the key factors that could be either one way or both ways, leading to other underlying health issues, such as mental problems, or due to the socioeconomic class. To learn more about the social exclusion and its corresponding effects, please visit the previous chapter about diseases, mental health issues. Poverty. It is described as low socioeconomic class, And there's absolute poverty, which is where the group cannot afford basic necessities such as water, food, clothing, shelter, or relative poverty, where an individual is lower compared to the people around them. For instance, a relative poverty could be someone living in Beverly Hills, but they're relatively poorer than their neighbors. Poverty could also lead to second sickness, which is exacerbation of health outcomes. For instance, in rural and slums and ghetto areas, there are much more risk of diseases outbreak and contamination in the water that could exacerbate pre-existing health symptoms and lead to the quickening of mortality and morbidity and certain risks. Globalization has also exacerbated such inequalities due to the worldwide exchange of material allow the core nations, which are fully developed nations such as Canada, United States, certain European countries, and large forefronts countries, China, for instance, they have developed and fully gone through industrialization already and are outsourcing the lower cheap jobs to the peripheral nations. Peripheral nations are the developing countries that are in the middle of industrialization. They're still having cheap labor force and using all sorts of labors to do menial tasks, and sometimes dangerous ones too, such as the Indonesian volcanic sulfur mines, as well as cocoa harvests. And certain companies in the core nations, such as Nestle, obviously are exploiting these and outsourcing into the peripheral nations for cheaper labor and using that as their source of generation income. Epidemiology is the study of diseases. Incidence is described as number of new cases over the number of population at risk per time. So if I have 100 people, and out of those 100 people, 50 of them are students, and let's say this new disease only targets students, then I would only pick number of new cases, let's say 3 students out of 50 students at risk. I don't do over 100 because only 50 are at risk of this student targeting disease, and then per time. Okay, maybe per month. Prevalence then is the total number of cases over the total number of population. So remember, total is including new and old. So all the people already having disease, let's say 7 people had the disease, and this month 3 more people had it. Now 10 total cases, and the total population was 100. So 10 over 100 total population per time. Mortality is the number of deaths by the disease. So it could be either initial exacerbation of the disease, or it could be complications arise from the disease. Morbidity is a degree of illness with the disease. So in certain effects such as drowning, even if you did not die by drowning, you come out, but you could be negatively impacted with a disability. You could have lost all your limbs control. You could have lost many parts of your senses. Those are degrees of illness that accompanied the disease or corresponding event. Okay, so there are certain trends to know. Women tend to use the healthcare system more than men because men participates in dangerous activities and more seeking. Hence, the men's mortality rate is higher. However, women suffers more from diseases that are less life-threatening, so including colitis, inflammations, chronic pains. also, health profiles across different cultures are different. So, for instance, Native Americans have one of the lower health profiles, and white Americans actually as well, due to the rising rate of obesity. Alright, so that's pretty much it for social stratification. Take care.